Da, 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 da.
Interesting intro.
I don't think it's copyright infringement if I do it myself.
Yeah, do it yourself. I think you're okay.
It's been a hot minute.
Jack's life has been busy, so we haven't been able to record.
Yeah. But there's positives and negatives with that. We have two entire series to kind of run through because
Yeah,
turns out one-sided
ended
series
pretty quick.
did not play out the way I thought it was. Once again, I don't know. Like, people talk about the Drake curse. I might have a curse on teams. Because
I have something here. You don't have a curse on teams, but you got a curse on something else.
I got a
and
curse.
we're gonna talk about it.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Welcome to episode, I don't know. We're closing in on 30.
I don't even think we've said what number episode for like the last 3 months.
Well,
now,
we're winding
Yeah.
down and we're approaching kind of a full season through.
Yeah.
Where do you want to begin?
We want to start in Toronto.
Okay.
It's just kind of we're gonna quick rundown.
Okay.
Leafs end of season thoughts. We've had a
Okay.
couple weeks to stew in it a little bit. Maybe we were a little emotional when it first happened.
Still am.
Still a little emotional, but not as much, right?
Yeah.
It's always when it's raw, you're a little more emotional.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean we change our opinions. Just means we're a little more logical.
You digest the information a little bit more.
So I think the first thing you start is Shanahan won't be returning.
Yeah.
I think the writing was on the wall there. His contract was up.
No real surprise there. He's had a long time to do it.
He's had a very long time, and I applaud his effort. When he came in, we were a horrible franchise.
Yep.
We've been in the playoffs 9 years in a row. So I can't complain there. The one thing you can say is he has backed these players time and time again. It hasn't worked. If it would have worked, we would have praised them, right?
I think it's like you built something here.
Yeah.
It's not a championship winning team at this point, or at least they haven't proven to be, but it's eons better than Dion Phaneuf, Phil Kessel, Lupul, whatever it is you want to kind of go around.
The year before they got Matthews in the draft, like the year they were so bad and got the first pick. That roster was so
atrocious.
Like one of the worst rosters I've ever seen in my life. Like the current Chicago Blackhawks and San Jose Sharks would shit on that roster.
Yeah.
It was like Leo Komarov was like our number one forward. What's the MLSE guy's name again? Benning or something?
Like head of MLSE?
Yeah, whoever the guy was that was talking in the press conference. I forget his name. Anyway, he had the press conference. He said they won't replace his role. So there will no longer be a president of hockey ops, whatever you want to call it. So it's basically this guy is going to be so it sounds like now that Rogers has kind of taken over MLSE, it's going to be a little more hands on from the ownership as compared to what it was before. They've kind of done that with the Raptors. They've done that with the Jays. They've always done that with TFC. The Leafs, it's kind of just been Shanahan's a hockey guy. Whoever the GM is a hockey guy. They've gone through tons of coaches and GMs in Shanahan's era.
Do you care about that, given that, yeah, you had the one Raptors win, but
they've been terrible since then.
TFC
is the same. TFC won. They've been terrible since then.
Jays are not good.
The Jays never really. They've kind of built a young core, but they've never really popped off. Kind of like the Leafs.
So I think it's like, okay, are you ownership that cares about winning, or do you care about?
But this is a new thing.
Yeah.
This is kind of a new thing, right?
Yeah.
So we got to give it time to see.
It was what, Bell Media more so? I think they sold their stake to Rogers.
Yeah. Rogers and Bell pretty much split the ownership. Rogers bought it out, and it sounds like eventually at some point they're going to be like even higher majority ownership, like close to 100%.
We looked. I don't know if you were there, but we looked it up the other day, and it was like MLS or no, just the Leafs is like it's valued at like 3.5 billion.
Oh, yeah.
They're the second highest franchise. Maybe they're top. Yeah, they were top
in hockey. Yeah,
top in hockey, only followed by the Rangers, which surprised me actually.
Just because New York.
Yeah,
just because of New York. But
anywho,
yeah, in terms of that, like what does the president of hockey ops really do?
It kind of seems
It's
like a
almost just like
little.
vetoes whatever the GM does he doesn't like, and that's all his job is.
It seems a little redundant, and it feels like you're kind of splitting power instead of being decisive.
I could see it if you have like Dubas having a very young GM come in that doesn't have a lot of experience.
Yep.
Maybe you help him out.
Just a little.
Kind of like Colorado. Colorado, Sakic was the GM, and then Sakic moved up, and they brought McFarland in, and it was maybe like a mentorship kind of thing. Right?
Yeah, a little oversight when needed.
Maybe that's what it is. I don't think Tree needs that.
No.
I think Tree's been doing this long enough, and I think it sounds like Berube's going to have a lot more say than most head coaches normally would, and I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
I think Tree Living and Berube are on the same wavelength, and I agree with that wavelength.
Yep.
And that's the direction you need to go. And it sounds like this MLSE guy is going to be a little more hands-on, so maybe he kind of plays that role of what Shanahan did.
Yeah.
There is rumors out there that they're saying that the Leafs did try to trade for Fleury.
I heard that.
When kind of the goaltending was an issue. Maybe not. I guess Freddie wasn't an issue, but his health was an issue.
Yeah. I would have loved it.
And Shanahan nixed it. That's the rumor.
There was some other guy as well, was there not?
Not that I saw, but there's probably been a bunch. I don't know, but so I don't know. Yeah, I don't really know. Could it have helped? Who knows? We don't know. We don't know what would have happened, but
yeah, I in Fantasyland, I don't think it would have been a crazy difference. I think it just would have been fun.
Fleury at the time is that much of an upgrade on Freddie. It's just that Freddie couldn't stay healthy. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
The Leafs had bigger problems than that, if we're being
completely honest. Bigger problems.
If we're being completely honest.
Yeah.
But just kind of want to touch on Tree Living. Tree Living had his press conference I believe it was Thursday.
Yeah.
And just kind of what he said, and it sounds like changes are coming. He said the DNA of the team needs to change.
And remind me, was Tree didn't need to be re-signed, did he? Like he has this standing contract.
Still has 2 more years.
Okay.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, the sentiment.
I think he's signed for 4 or 5, and he's been here 2 years now. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
The sentiment was the DNA needs to change. That was kind of the phrase of there's maybe some components here, but we're not done. This isn't the team that we're gonna go all in on.
Yeah. So that's it sounds like things are gonna change.
So what does that mean?
That means I know Jack disagrees with me.
Maybe.
Florida's the model. Whether you want to disagree with me or not, Florida is currently in the NHL. Florida is the model.
In my asterisk that I would add to it, it's not that I disagree Florida's the model. It's that I think you don't need to purely replicate Florida. I think you need to take from that play style.
I don't think there's no like distinct. You have to play this specific way, but what is a theme on every single cup winning team is that they play a system and they buy into that system and they play that way.
Yeah.
Maybe not every single night, but come playoff time, you're bought in.
Yeah, and I think that's the theme.
And physicality is always part of it. There's going to be some teams that are a little more talented and some teams that are a little more physicality based, but there's got to be something in there. You can't be afraid to go to the dirty areas.
I think we spoke last night for like an hour and a half just on this.
Yeah.
And I think your point that I think I can most agree with is like you need it to where the guys on the roster, regardless of your role, if you're asked to go do something, it is you're doing that and you're going all in on that.
Yeah.
If you're a third line grinder, guess what? You're gonna go absolutely destroy anything that moves come playoff time. And I think where we deviated a little bit was I was saying, okay, is that sustainable through an 82 game regular season? I think it's like I give some guys the benefit of the doubt of maybe I don't think it's fair to criticize every play, but your point of view is largely that has to be the culture. That has to be the fit.
It has to get started in the regular season. It has to start. I'm not saying every night's going to be perfect.
Right.
Not every night isn't going to be perfect. There's going to be nights where the effort isn't there. No team plays absolute perfection.
Flawless.
82 games, every game in the playoffs. It's just not possible.
Right.
But the steps need to be there in the regular season so that when the playoffs do come, you're there, you're ready. We're going to touch on the two teams there in the final, of course.
Yeah.
And that's going to be kind of a theme. Whereas the Leafs, it was said before the season the Atlantic Division was a priority because we do play in a tough division. You kind of want to avoid the two Florida monsters in the first round.
Yep.
So yeah, it did work out in the sense that we avoided them in the first round and we won their first round, but we're going to play them eventually. If you want to be the best, you got to beat the best.
Yep.
And right now, Florida's the best. Until they don't win the cup, they're the best.
Unequivocally, they're the defending champs.
Yeah.
They are seemingly just walking through their rounds.
It's not that we have to play exactly their style. We need to take things from their style, but the buy-in needs to be there. And I think Maurice and the culture in Florida, that's the number one thing you want.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. I'm gonna use a football example. I'm a Detroit Lions fan. The Detroit Lions tried to copy the New England Patriots. You can't copy the New England Patriots because you don't have the personnel that the New England Patriots have. It's just not possible.
And for some players, there's one of a kind player.
Yeah.
There's one Tom Brady. I view it as like largely, and it was interesting because it was like it was almost a little stale in the Leaf series, but like there's maybe two Kachucks, a guy who it's like
there's
and not even on the ice, the culture he brings.
And I would honestly say Nyes is one of the closest guys to them in the league. So you have one, not in the sense of like the shit disturbing, but the actual hockey.
Yeah. And again, we spoke about this last night where it was like, it seemed weird, but it was, you had two changes with Florida with the Huberdeau trade. You had that coming in at the same time. You brought in Kachuk and you brought in Paul Maurice, and that was largely the change. And so it was like you came in and suddenly everyone was game.
I don't even think everyone was game because if you look at the regular season 2 years ago, which would have been, I believe, would have been Maurice's first full season as head coach, because after Quenneville was gone, Brunette played out the rest of the year.
Was Quenneville there?
Yeah, because that's where he got fired.
I didn't realize that's where he got.
When all this stuff came out.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And then Brunette came in, and then Maurice kind of took over from Brunette.
Okay.
So Maurice came in. Florida barely made the playoffs in 2023. They got in the last spot in the East. Bobrovsky was playing terrible. Alex Lyon was their starter for the beginning of the playoffs that year. They went down 3-1 against the Bruins team that was the best regular season team of all time. As soon as Bob came in, just I don't know, something switched, and they just went sicko mode the rest of the playoffs until they ran into Vegas. But Florida had a ton of injuries, so it's not something that changes overnight.
Sure.
But a full season, they kind of learned Maurice a little bit. By the time the playoffs came around, they bought in. They got to the final, and then the next year they just
the seeds got planted. They watered it and nurtured it, and here they are.
Yeah, exactly. It's not to say that you have to do exactly what Florida does. I don't think you ever can because of the people you have on your roster. We don't want to listen, the core four, I think we can all agree it hasn't panned out. But you don't want to get rid of all of them.
Correct.
Because you're losing tons of talent. You still need talent to win.
You got to put the puck in the net.
You need talent to win, but it's just what's around that talent is what needs to improve.
Right.
But I just think it was interesting because it's kind of been Tree Living's theme, but year over year he's been more adamant, it seems.
And you're seeing the guys that he is going to get, and he started with the D, and now I think everyone's on the same page. The D is pretty damn good. There's still issues, but it's like the type of issues we're facing are different.
Yeah.
And now it's time to kind of address the elephant in the room, which is up front.
Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to just go through our current roster quick, but before we do that, let's touch on everything else. Let's make that the last thing we do on the Leafs. Mm-hmm. So there's a narrative going around. The narrative is, are we buying into this? So it's not as bad. It's not as bad as we thought. Narrative, just because Florida punked Carolina in the conference final. So a lot of people say, "Well, we took the Panthers 7 games. Look at what happens." Blah blah blah.
Does it make you feel any better?
I don't. It doesn't matter to me because it's not what round. To me, Elliot Friedman says this all the time, and I agree with it. To me, it's not what round you lose in; it's who you lose to. I'm You're gonna sit here and tell me Colorado's a dog shit team because they lost to Dallas in the first round? No.
And I think
right? Like,
and I think it's the same thing as when we spoke last episode. It's how you.
This is not a because this is a playoff format problem, which is a different conversation.
Right.
Because if you look at both conference finals, people said it. If it was 1-8, the two conference finals would have been first round matchups. But anyway, we're not going there today. That's a different conversation. I'm not buying into that.
I don't either, particularly because it's like, yeah, you kind of just like exposed like there may have been some overhyping of Carolina. To me, it's not. It's not a silver lining because you have to view our series in a vacuum. Like how we lost matters so intensely because in two massive home games, you didn't show up. You blew leads in Florida that could have been series changing.
You blew game 3. You played like dump game 4, 5, and 7.
It doesn't change anything looking at them because we still played like shit.
Yeah.
It doesn't change anything for me to see them walk it. I understand I don't know, looking for anything to make Leaf fans feel a little bit better. That's kind of what it feels like, and I don't think it's justified.
This is what I mean. Everybody knows going in that the Atlantic is a stronger division than the Metro. So you're going to play stronger teams early in the playoffs.
Yeah.
We know this. The Metro hasn't had a team in the Cup final since Washington won in 2018.
Yeah.
That's 7 years ago.
Yeah. The only redeeming thing with that series is they played okay some games, and you saw what they did in Game 6. You saw that they're capable. It's just the consistency wasn't there. So no, it doesn't make me feel better.
And it doesn't change anything whether we play Florida in the first round, the second round, the third round. They're the standard right now.
Yep.
So that's what you need to beat to get to where you want to be. So it doesn't matter what rounds you play them in. It's irrelevant. It doesn't do anything for me. If we made the conference final and we went out the same way, I would still be saying the same things.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's how we lost. It's not that we lost. If we lost to Florida in 7 games and we played our asses off, you're going to have one bad game, really bad game. There's that in every series. Florida lost 8-1 in Game 4 in the Cup final last year.
Right.
You're going to have bad games, right?
Yep.
That's just the nature of the beast. But for the effort not to be there for
it's inexcusable.
The last 2 home games of your season against the top champ.
And I felt like after Game 6, you're like, okay, they woke up. They realized. They were like, oh boy, we need to do something here. And then they came out in Game 6, and you're like, no, we're capable. And then it just entirely went away.
It's just kind of complacency. They feel like they didn't play well games 4 and 5. Wall kind of saved them from being absolutely run out of the building in Game 4.
And frankly, it was like, I don't know. It wasn't. It was. It felt very different to the Boston 7 minutes, whatever, 7 minutes of hell. It was. You didn't show up the entire game.
That game was you didn't show up for 10 minutes.
It wasn't like you started hot and you kept it and Florida battled back and you just didn't get it done, or you did it and Florida started slow. It was you from the get go. It was a disaster. As soon as that first, if Florida scores first, you're gonna.
You think if the Leafs went up in the first period of that game like Florida did, you think Florida would just rolled over the last 2 periods and died like we did?
Nope.
No chance in hell they would have done that.
Nope.
Right? That's the things we need to fix.
Yeah.
So I think we both agree that we don't agree with that narrative.
No.
I'm sure there's a lot of Leafs fans that play into that.
That's grasping at straws.
Yeah, you're just because you love this core, so you want them to stay at all costs. All right. Are you ready?
Let's go.
All right. So we're gonna talk about Marner for a bit.
Probably a lot.
Probably quite a bit. So there's the rumor going around is Elliot Friedman says that the Leafs tried to. Obviously, we know about the trying to deal to Carolina for Rantanen at the trade deadline. The rumor here is that True Living offered him up to Vegas last summer. Now he would have, if it would have come through, if it would have been accepted, then he still would have had to waive his no move. So who knows if it even would have happened? But It said the Leafs tried to deal Marner to Vegas. They wanted Shea Theodore back. And Vegas said, if you want to see Shea Theodore play hockey, you have to buy tickets to our game.
What a line.
That's what Elliot Friedman said.
What a line. Even if that's just an Elliot, what a line, Elliot.
Yeah. So that's an interesting one. I kind of would have loved that deal. Because Theodore is the exact type of defenseman we want Riley to be, and he isn't anymore.
Now, I think a lot of people would be like, oh, you get a Marner back for Theodore. Marner's such a talented guy, such a playmaker. Do you think that like Vegas management to even like kind of reject it is they see something in Marner that they don't like?
Yeah, he doesn't the way Vegas plays. We know how Vegas plays.
Do you think there's a more broad stigma toward Marner than people are willing to admit?
I don't think these big teams are afraid of adding Marner to the roster if they have the right culture already in place. It's the money. They're not going to pay him what he wants.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
It makes it very interesting looking forward to. Anyway.
Yeah. The next thing I want to talk about, just sitting back and looking, I know it stung and it just happened, but after the loss in Game 7, like Tavares said immediately, I want to be here. Knies has consistently said, I want to be here.
Yeah.
Marner has not made that commitment.
No.
I don't think Marner wants to be here anymore.
The post game, everything was past tense when referring to the Leafs.
Yeah.
He wants out.
He doesn't want to be here anymore.
No.
I don't think he does. I think it's pretty clear.
Yeah.
And listen, everything that I have, the only thing I have an issue with Marner is on ice. I think Marner's probably a good human being. Yeah. I have zero issue with him. If you're harassing Marner on the street, you're a fucking asshole.
Mm-hmm.
He's a human being, all right? Yes, he makes big money, and yes, he's very fortunate in what he does.
He's a sports entertainer.
But he's a human being. He's not going to be perfect, just like we're not perfect.
He's not changing your taxes. He's not changing your laws, buddy.
So leave the guy alone.
Relax.
If you don't agree with what he does on the ice, that's fine. You don't attack the person.
Hockey is a sport and a
It's
game.
Entertainment. It's fun to watch. We can critique a player's game because that's what comes with the territory or a professional athlete. That's what comes with it. But he's a human being. He does not deserve to be harassed on the street because you don't think he played well in a hockey game.
Mm-hmm.
And you say nasty shit about him. I don't agree with that. And I think that's probably part of why he doesn't want to be here anymore. Probably a big part of it. Maybe he doesn't want to be. Maybe he probably feels like he's a scapegoat, and he kind of is, because it's not entirely on him.
Yeah.
He's just the example because he asked for big money.
You make the big bucks. It's in any organization. Yeah. You're the big bucks. More is expected of you.
Because remember, Nylander would have been the one that was criticized a lot before, but now it's more Marner and Matthews now.
Yep.
That get the criticism more than anyone, right?
Yep.
You got anything else to add on Marner before I tell you?
No, because I think the big conversation is after this.
So this is my idea.
Actually, pause, because I'll preface this. Drew's been teasing that he has this grand idea of something with Marner, and I've been looking forward to this for a couple days now. So just I just want to set the tone of anticipation for what's about to come for me.
So Jack's guess was we keep Marner at still a decent payday.
Give him like 13 maybe.
But he doesn't have a no move. That's what Jack's guess
was. The only thing that gets him that money and so that you don't let him walk, it's an absolutely you're not getting a no move if you want this money.
That's Jack's guess.
Yeah.
He's not right.
Okay.
Now, before I start, I'm going to say I don't want to do this.
Okay. I'm
saying this is the only possible scenario I would be okay with it.
Okay.
I think it's pretty. Now, obviously, a lot could change because starting July 1st, anyone that's a free agent, a UFA next year can start signing with their current team. So everything could change. But I think everyone can agree next free agency class is probably a little stronger than the one we have right now.
Yep.
So, do the Leafs want to wait a year before going out splashing, right?
Okay.
I don't think Martin will go for this. I'm not sure the Leafs would go for this. But my one way of Marner staying in Toronto, if he wanted to, would be I'll give you what Nylander makes for 1 year. You're going to play this year out. If you prove it in the playoffs, then we'll consider re-signing you. If you don't, you're done.
So Nylander's at what?
11.5.
So that would be a little haircut for him for the season coming up.
Well, Marner makes just under 11.
Just so under 11? So modest.
Yeah.
If you want to, rate.
You can go 12.
Okay.
For 1 year, you decide if you want to be here or not, and if you want to take a chance and prove yourself next year come playoff time. If you do it, great. Maybe we'll talk about a re-signing longer term. If not, sayonara, and we're gonna go build off of next year's free agency because it seems to be a stronger class.
And the negotiating tactic would be, hey Mitch, we don't think anyone's gonna give you this.
Nobody's giving you 14.
Nobody
that's a contender is giving you the money you want.
And you're not. And if someone's giving you that money, it's not on a winning team.
Yeah, it's maybe like a fringe team, or it's a bad team that wants a name, or they have young guys or whatever.
Yeah.
Do I want? I don't want to do that, but that's the only way I'm okay with it.
Because I don't think Marner goes for my idea because it's like you resign
He's not doing that.
And you're trading me instantly. Yeah. That's basically how that goes. The 1 year one, yeah, it's an interesting idea.
Marner's not doing either one of those.
He's not doing it. It's kind of interesting, just like thought hypothetical. I would do it. Like I would be okay with it. It means you're not dramatically getting anything, but there's not much available anyway, so you're kind of just in the same point next year.
Yeah.
And you see if the team can kind of form culture.
Now that's just free agency. You could go make a move in a trade, right? Like we talked about Florida already. Florida didn't go into free agency. Florida went and made a trade.
Yeah.
They traded, which pretty much was their Marner and Huberdeau, and brought Tkachuk in.
Does it leave any bad taste in your mouth? Because, like, again, shout out to the best Leafs Instagram account ever. I have not fact checked this because I'm not a fact checker at all. I go off of rumor alone. People were saying basically they tried to re-sign Marner mid-season. He said no. He then was approached during the Rantanen trade and said, "Do you want to go? We have this asset. Do you want to be here?" He said, "I want to be here. I'm not one to move. I'm no move." And to then kind of seemingly seem like he's gonna walk, you didn't want to be here. We tried to re-sign you. You said no. We tried to trade you, maybe a little goodwill with the fans to go get Rantanen. And now we seemingly have to watch you walk and we get nothing in return. To me, that does leave a bit of a bad taste in my mouth of like, you're kind of screwing over the city. You just are.
So here's where I'm going to take it. I'm going to take a different approach on that. Just like we have the right to do what we want as an organization with the Leafs, the players have the right to do. They've earned that right. That's just how it is. That's how it is. Here's why I'm not gonna say this. Because if I were to agree with that, I'm being a hypocrite because I didn't have a problem with Tavares doing it to come here. That is the Islanders' problem with Tavares, right?
Yeah.
So if I agree with that, I'm a hypocrite because I'm okay with Tavares doing it as long as he's coming here.
Tavares wasn't an Islanders guy though. You know, like he wasn't born there. He doesn't have the growing up near the city. Come on, man. It feels like you bet on yourself, and now you're a little embarrassed because it didn't work out.
Tavares was like the face of that franchise. He was the captain.
Yeah. I'm kind of empathizing.
I get that it was different because Tavares is coming home, whereas Marner will be leaving home.
Yeah.
I get that. But every player has the right. His contract is up. He has the right to do whatever he wants to do.
Yeah.
It's just like the NBA. I don't agree with the super team stuff, but those players have that right. Right?
They have the right.
That's how it is. You just have to deal with it.
Didn't resign. You wouldn't let us get anything in return. You want our lunch money on the way out,
well,
too.
then Dubas shouldn't have given him a no move then out of his entry level.
Bingo!
Everything, all the problems we have comes down to Dubas. That's what it is.
Is Dubas the
If
most
Dubas,
hated
if,
man in
if
Toronto?
Dubas didn't let all these players walk all over him out of their entry-level deal, this wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
Because we would be able to build the rest of the roster a lot stronger. And the
Yeah.
cap would be going up now. And now, when they're 27, 28 in their prime, now they can get that raise when the cap's going up. I know it was all the, well, Dubas was counting on the cap to go up, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. You have to earn it. Well, you're going to sit here and tell me Wyatt Johnston's going to make $8.5 million next year. This is his first contract off of his entry-level deal. You're going to tell me that Marner was better in his first 3 years in the league than what Wyatt Johnston's been?
No.
No. He hasn't. That's just how it is.
But he's from the city. We got to re-sign him and pay him all the money he wants because,
No.
he sells jerseys.
No, I don't give a shit.
You don't want the number 16s in the seat.
The Leafs have proven in the last 60 years it doesn't matter if they're good at hockey or not. People are going to pay money to go watch them play and buy their shit. It does not matter.
It's a little sickening.
It does not matter. So why do I give a shit about selling jerseys? If you want to sell jerseys, go to fucking San Jose.
Now, with that said, if you have a signed Phil Kessel jersey, reach out to me, please. Email puckyourselfpodcast@gmail.com. Let's get in touch. Anyway.
Okay. Let's go through the roster quickly. Say what you think. Like, should this guy leave? Should this guy stay? Blah, blah, blah. Okay?
Yeah.
And net, Wall still has 3 years left, and Stolarz has a year left. I think they're both here. I don't think the goaltending's an issue. I think we all agree on that.
I think they're not true.
Could be a problem next summer.
Yeah. Stolarz is what, 32, 33?
Stolarz is 31.
31, even better, honestly.
He's a goalie, so you got time. But it's not about the age. It's about if he's playing this well, he's gonna want more money.
And he's wearing his contract?
He has a year left. He signed a 2-year deal with us last summer. So if he could, as July 1st, he could sign
it's something, deal. And he's at what?
2.5.
Yeah, he'll get more.
And Wall makes 3.67.
He'll make more than Wall.
So Stolarz is the starter. Now, I think you need to let the season play out a little bit and see what happens.
Yeah, it's a one data point, and it is like it's one in your splitting time. We went with you. You seemed good, but we don't
know what's going to happen.
You can't justify to me today.
Stolarz played great this season, but this is the first year Stolarz has ever been a starter.
Yeah.
So we don't know how long this is going to last. Right?
Now, maybe we have a star entering his prime, and he just needed to unlock, get out of Bobrovsky.
A lot of goalies start late, right?
Yeah.
That's how it is. So I think we both agree the goaltending situation for next season doesn't change.
No.
In the future, we'll see, but I think on the back end, I think you're pretty locked in here.
Yeah.
You have Riley, McCabe, and Tanev. They all have 4 years left. Ekman-Larsson has 3, and then Carlo, Benoit, and Myers all have 2 years left. The only one would be Hakanpää. He's a UFA now. I will let him walk. He played 2 games.
He's not healthy. He
can't stay healthy.
No.
You can find a younger guy or sign him as the 8th defenseman.
I don't care. I don't care
if
it's
league minimum.
I hope he goes somewhere else and he has a great season. I just don't want him to be here.
Yeah.
I don't want to take the risk.
Nothing against the guy. He's 33 years old. He hasn't been healthy. That's how it is. On the back end, I think we're set for now. I think
doesn't feel good in 3 years.
In a couple of years, it's not great because for the most part,
you have tough decisions.
We're all on the wrong side of 30.
Yeah, you have tough decisions to make come a couple of years.
In the top 6, so we'll say in the top 7. So you have 7 that kind of play. Only 3 are under the age of 30, and 2 of those are the guys that would be considered in and out of the lineup. Right? Yeah. Carlo's the only one that's like nailed on spot that's under the age of 30.
Yeah.
And he's not far from it. He's 28.
Yeah.
You have Riley McCabe at 31. You have Ekman-Larsson at 33, and you have Tanev at 35.
Okay.
Now, I do think Tanev is the type of defenseman that can play a long time, just kind of his role, because he's never been like a high-flying offensive defenseman. So that's a guy who can play well a long time into his career. I think Ekman-Larsson has adjusted his game. We'll see how long that lasts. But for now, the decor isn't changing. And
Ekman-Larsson was one of the guys in the playoffs who woke up, who played really well.
The one thing on the decor, I think, is Riley.
Yeah.
Because it's already getting worse now, and he's only 31.
Yeah.
You still have 4 years at $7.5 million.
And at this point, it's been a couple of consecutive seasons of this wasn't a down season. You've not played well for a while.
I don't think it's quite buyout bad. We're not talking Jacob Trouba here.
No.
But
it doesn't feel good.
It's not great. And if you can find a trade partner, maybe it's time.
If you can find a trade partner, you absolutely move on that.
Yeah. Okay, now the real thing is forwards. So I think we all agree D and goaltending is pretty much going to be the same as what it was this past season. The forwards is what's going to change. So for now, you got Matthews has 3 years left. Nylander has like 6 or 7.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Domi has 3. Camp has 2.
Okay.
And then you have Yarncroke, Lawton, Reeves, and McMahon all have 1.
Okay.
And then you have Pacioretty, Tavares, Marner, and Lorentz are all UFAs. Holmberg, Robertson, and Nyes are RFAs.
Okay.
So start from the top. Matthews and Nylander aren't going anywhere.
No.
Domi, I think, is still staying. I think he needs to play a lesser role. If he's a lesser role, I'm okay with it. Camp is 1. I think that's a possible buyout candidate. He has 2 years left at 2.4, and he was a healthy scratch all but 1 game in the playoffs.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem Berube. He was healthy scratch throughout the year sometimes.
Because Camp's the center.
He's the center.
And Yarncroke?
Winger.
Okay.
So you got Camp at 2.4. I think that's a buyout candidate.
Yeah.
I think Yarncroke at 2.1. I don't think you buy him out. I think you bite the bullet for 1 more year and then go from there. He wants to stay at league minimum. He was hurt most of the year.
He played well enough to where you're just like,
as a depth role, I'm good with him.
It's fine.
Yeah, I'm good with him. If he's a fourth liner, I'm okay with it. Lawton, yeah, he's obviously staying. Hopefully, it can get a little better, and then you have him on a lot less money because Philly ate salary.
Yeah, give him some different guys to work with.
I think you let him play out, and we go from there after that.
Yeah.
McMahon, obviously the playoffs was super disappointing, but he still has a roster spot on this team.
Yeah.
The third, fourth line role.
It just seemed like something changed in the playoffs for him.
Don't know what happened there.
Career high season and then fell off a cliff and was you had to struggle to find him on the TV.
Yeah. Now this is one that I think a lot of people are going to say buyout candidate because he's not going to play. Reeves is not going to play.
No.
He's 38. He makes $1.35 million. Now, why I'll say I wouldn't buy him out, because I wouldn't waste a buyout on that because you can just send him down. Nobody's going to claim him anyway.
Yeah.
You kind of want somebody to claim him, honestly.
Just to take him off your hands.
Take him off your hands. So you send him down, you put him on waivers. Either somebody claims him and he's gone, or he goes down. That money doesn't go towards your cap, and he just plays with the Marlies.
I just let some beers roll, by the way. Just get ready for that. Just so you know, the show isn't scripted.
Yeah. I know a lot of people are going to want a buyout here, but it just doesn't make any logistical sense. If you could just send the guy down or put him on waivers and he gets clean.
No, and I agree where it's like you can send him down. It's not a problem.
Instead of wasting a buyout on a guy who's got 1 year left on his deal, that doesn't make sense.
For a guy who can come up for a game or two if someone gets injured,
exactly.
Why not?
Because when you put him on waivers, who cares?
Yeah.
If he goes or stays, whatever.
Yeah.
He's not. There's a he went on waivers at the deadline. Nobody claimed him.
Yeah.
So nobody claimed him now. They're not going to claim him next year. That's just, unless you maybe
38.
Maybe a younger team wants a vet in a room. I don't know. Maybe
Fun
they
guy,
claim him.
culture guy.
Sure, I don't know. Who knows? He did express a little bit of frustration, saying, "I don't want to be in the minors. That's the end of my career. I don't want to go out that way." But it is what it is.
You're not a talent guy.
I think let's start with the RFA with the free agent. The RFA, I think everyone agrees that Nyes is staying.
Nyes.
What the number looks like, we don't know yet. It's probably in the $7 to $9 million range, based on how well you played in the playoffs and the cap going up.
Yep.
And then if somebody makes an offer sheet, now he has expressed desire to stay, so I can't see him accepting an offer sheet.
No.
But if he wants to scrounge for every last penny and somebody offers him something, and he wants the horse to leave hand, maybe he does that. But I can't see him.
I don't think he does it.
No. Holmberg, it seems that Berube likes Holmberg.
He takes a lot of chances with him.
Holmberg is kind of, to Berube, what Kerfoot was to Keith.
Okay.
In the sense that he likes him because he's a high energy player and he can play up and down the lineup. If he stays, I'm okay with it. I wouldn't want to give him a lot of money. He's still 26. He plays his role fine. I would like maybe him to be a little. I know he's not a huge guy, but maybe a little more physical. But he is aggressive on the forecheck at least. He can skate. I'm kind of indifferent in this sense.
Continue to develop him. Yeah. You get him on cheap.
I think he stays. I think Berube likes him.
Yeah.
I think Robertson's gone.
I think we don't want Robertson, and Robertson doesn't want us.
Robertson obviously asked for a trade last summer. He ended up staying. He signed a 1-year deal. There was kind of around the deadline, it looked like he was in a good spot because he was in trade rumors all year, but he was playing well at that point, and Berube seemed to like him.
Yeah.
After the deadline, that kind of flickered away. He played one game in the playoffs.
He needs a little bit more discipline and a little bit more structure.
Yeah, I just think he's not a Berube player. He doesn't kind of want that in the room. I don't know. I think it's time for a reset for him. I think he has to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
We've talked about it all year.
Yeah.
I think it was kind of understood that he would probably get dealt at the deadline, but he proved himself and he didn't. But since then, it hasn't really panned out. UFA. We'll just start with Marner. I think we both agree. We don't think Marner's going to be here.
No.
We don't think the Leafs want him. We don't think Marner wants to be a Leaf anymore. That's the clip he wants. That's what it comes down to.
It's going to be
if he was a lesser clip, the Leafs would sign him.
It's going to be a hell of a reunion tour, but I think he's gone.
I think Lorentz is in the same boat as Holmberg. I think Berube loves him. I think he stays. The money won't be high. You're probably maybe similar to a Reeves deal.
Yeah, because I think he's on league minimum or just above.
I don't think he's quite league minimum, but he's not far from it.
I think you're right. I think he gets like a 1 and change.
Like a Reeves.
Yeah.
For however long, who knows. He's still only 29. And he's a perfect fourth liner. So the last two that are kind of because of age are kind of a question mark.
Okay.
Now Tavares has expressed his desire to stay, and I think the Leafs do want him to stay.
Yeah.
It's just what kind of money does he want?
We were raving about him in February?
Yeah. And I do think he had good glimpses in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I thought he was solid. Near the end of the Flutter series, he was quiet, but now the age is obviously a big factor. He's 34. Okay. Stamkos went out and demanded $8 million in free agency last summer.
Lunatic.
If Tavares wants $8 million, I'd say no.
Not for 8.
Yeah.
What number do you feel comfortable at?
So he makes 11. I'll say half. I'll toss a little bit extra. I'll say 6 or less. I'm okay with.
I was even going like around 5.
Yeah, that range.
Yeah, 5 and change.
Half is 5.5. So, well, I'll say, how about this? If Tavares wants 6, he can only sign for 2 years.
Yeah.
If he takes less, I'll take more years.
If he's at 5.3, 15 million versus 12 million.
4 to 5, and I'll do 3 years.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Just because of the age. If you want like 5.5, 6, I'm not going more than 2 years.
Yeah.
Like that's a good guy to have in a room. He still produces
He's still
a really good clip.
Yeah.
This year, I think it's just more of the game is a lot quicker.
Game's a lot quicker. Yeah. He's willing to play in front of the net. His tips are sick. His face-offs are good.
He's just some good intangibles.
Yeah.
He's a vet.
Yeah.
You still need those guys in the room. And I think the last one here, I think Patrick's probably gone. Whether he decides to retire or not, I don't think he's coming back.
He's already said he doesn't like his family stayed. I think they're still in Montreal. Where are they?
He's played so many places since Montreal. I don't know where they live at this point. Played in Vegas. He played Washington. I don't know where they live.
He said was it was very hard to be away from his family for the duration of the season, the amount of travel.
And he's American too, so I don't imagine it's somewhere in the U.S.
Oh, is he American? I didn't realize he was American. Yeah, I think mutually it's going to be it's best for him to walk.
Yeah. We appreciate like what he did, and he had a solid season. But I think the Leafs are going a different direction.
And one of the guys who showed up a little bit more in the playoffs, like if he wants to play, I think a team will pick him up.
Yeah. It's not that he did anything wrong. It's just kind of like time to go a different direction.
Yeah.
Like, the Leafs have done this so many times where they bring in some vet guy that used to be unbelievable, and he's a good guy in the room. But our guys, like the Matthews, Nylander, Marner, they're not 20 anymore.
They don't need that.
I don't need that anymore. I want guys in the bottom lineup that are players now.
If anything, they should be the ones who are starting to emerge as teaching some of these younger guys.
That's where it is. Like the Thorntons, the Marlows, the Spezas, Pacioretty, obviously one, and then obviously you hear like a Jonathan Toews is out there.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a guy that somebody else might go sign this summer. I just don't think we should be doing that. That's my opinion. All right, that's all I got in the Leaf.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be really fun to see what exactly kind of transpires come
We're
this next month and a half.
We're gonna talk a lot more about it. We'll get into more specific things as it goes on, closer to obviously the draft and free agency and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the actual on ice part of hockey.
Okay.
Because the Leafs are on the golf course again. Well, because it's a Canadian team, we'll go west first. So when we last spoke, it was the conference finals was just starting. So the beginning of the series, Edmonton came up flying in game one. Dallas, with a major third period comeback in game one, kind of stunned Edmonton. And it was like, okay,
we got what, like 3 goals in the third period, 4 goals?
They scored 5 in the third. I think at least one was an empty net, but that was a big blow. But after that game, Dallas had nothing. Edmonton took control. They're pretty much impossible to beat at home ice in the playoffs, it seems.
Skinner pulled out it might have been sub 1 GAA.
So here's what I want to talk
about. Holy smokes,
this is
buddy.
what I want to talk about with Jack. This is Jack specific. It seems like whenever Jack has a problem with a goalie, that goalie becomes peak Patrick Law.
He's still floppy. But my gosh.
But he's
winning.
Yeah.
It comes down as simple as that.
Like, remember Jordan Bennington?
Oh God. Okay.
Now Jack, that's his best friend.
This is an official apology to Mr. Stuart Skinner.
So from now on, whenever Jack trips the goalie, I'm gonna toss all my money
at
that guy getting a shutout the next night.
If you're a bettor, if I start talking shit on a goalie, mortgage the house, buddy. Yeah. Send the house on that.
Don't actually do that, folks.
Yeah, this is not Benny advice. Yeah. Do not listen to us.
But yeah, Stuart Skinner, I don't know what has changed. It's honestly the same as last year's playoffs, but even more of a turnaround, I find.
Yeah.
Because it was he played bad, but he did start a couple games near the end of the Vancouver series, but then he came back, and it was just status quo. Whereas this playoff, it was like Pickard's got this job now.
It felt like that.
LA took a 2-0 lead. They changed goalies, and Edmonton didn't lose a game after that.
When I was like, "Oh, Pickard got hurt," I'm like, "Oh, you're tossing Stu back in."
Yeah.
Oh, enjoy that.
Yeah. Against Vegas. Yeah.
Shut me the hell up.
Yeah. And he was unbelievable again in this series
against a very talented Dallas team.
Basically, Skinner is either going to let in 6 goals in the game, or he's going to let in 0. There's no in between.
And for 4 games, he pretty much let in 0.
Yeah. Except for game 1.
Yeah.
Right? So it's kind of what Stuart Skinner will show up. When we talk about the Cup final, that will be a factor there. But that's just from that series. How did he just? Because even in the Vegas series, it was kind of like one game he was great, and one game he was shit. Just Edmonton scored a ton, right?
Yeah.
It was kind of back and forth. And the Edmonton circle at home did return for game 5.
Yep.
So he'll be back.
That feels good.
So that's good for them. On the other side of that, it sounds like Hyman's done for the season.
Yeah, he had surgery, I believe, last week.
So that
sucks.
That sucks. You're make a big run of the Cup final, and you get hurt in the conference final after you were 1 game away the year before.
And it's not something you can battle through.
Yeah. So it's kind of just one big factor and one talking point from game 5 was Ottinger. I think Ottinger the whole series. So it seems like Ottinger has had his fair share of struggles against Edmonton because he was lights out the first two rounds.
I don't know what his deal was in Edmonton.
I don't think he was necessarily that terrible.
No, like
Dallas wasn't scoring, so it's like you can't just pile it all on him.
Yeah.
Now the game 5 thing was he let in 2 goals on 2 shots, and then they kind of took a timeout and they were talking, and then as soon as they were skating back, Ottinger starts skating back, and DeBoer says, "No, you're done." And the big controversy was, why didn't you tell him at the beginning of the timeout?
Yeah. I don't have a rationale for that. I would boil it down to it just slipped his mind.
DeBoer just has a history of being kind of harsh on goalies more than other coaches.
And like this is where I'd say I'd go. I had a very busy week, so I didn't catch a lot, especially of like the first 2 periods of most of these games. From catching the third, it was surprising to see him not there.
Yeah. Looking at the 2 goals that he got, listen, I know it was more of a message to the team than it was to Ottinger, and DeBoer has said that. But DeBoer has also said, look at the sample size against Edmonton. He struggled against Edmonton.
What I think Ottinger did a presser this week.
Yeah, he did. He did, and I thought he handled it well. Obviously, you're not going to be happy about it, but
No.
You got to do what you got to do. Like it is. But if you look at the 2 goals, it was Perry alone in front of the net and a breakaway. There isn't much he can really do here on those 2 goals.
So would you, if you're coaching, do you pull him?
I know it's 2 goals on 2 shots, and I know it's more of a message to the players than it is to him specifically. Like, you got to wake up. But this is the guy you rode all the way here. He kind of saved your butt, especially against Colorado, to even get you this far. And I think you ride with your guy. If he lets in another one, I can see it. But, like, you look at what happened after Edmonton scored on dismiss, and nothing really changed.
Yeah.
They kind of woke up a little bit in the second, but every time they would score one, and then Edmonton would score back.
This is right.
It wasn't like,
I think it would be like, it'd be similar to the situation in Leafs Game 7 if you suddenly pulled Wool and put Stolarz in.
Yeah.
Even in a healthy scenario, Stolarz is like fully good to go.
Yeah.
I mean, he was on the bench, whatever. But it's like, it's not changing anything. It doesn't do anything.
Yeah. I understand the message, but it's just like it's an elimination game. Like if it was a game 1 or game 2, okay.
I think you ride
Like you're
him.
down 3-1.
You ride
You
him.
ride them. Just like Winnipeg, you ride Hellebuck, right?
Yeah. And it shows him you have the confidence in him. That's
Yeah.
your franchise goalie for
That's
now.
your franchise goalie, yeah. So I don't know. But the Oilers back in the final after being so close last year.
And it just seems like such a turnaround.
I think a lot of people are very surprised. When we talk about the Cup final preview. We'll talk about kind of Edmonton's road here. But just specifically this series, don't know what happened to Dallas.
I had Dallas in 5. I thought they were gonna roll.
Yeah, you got the games right.
Yeah.
You got the games right. I just couldn't believe that. I know there was a lot of chatter out there, like Dallas did kind of at the end of the regular season they weren't playing well coming in, and they didn't necessarily play terrific 5-on-5 hockey in the first 2 rounds. They kind of got bailed out by special teams, and then there was just like a stretch. There'll be like a stretch late where they go off, like game 1 in the Edmonton series, or even like game 7 against Colorado in the first round.
Yeah.
Scenarios like that. And Ottinger kind of bailed them out a little bit as well.
Mm-hmm.
But just I couldn't believe that this was the effort in the conference final. Like what happened to Dallas? Like if they can't win with this team,
you went and you got Rantanen. He was fire as it could be. You had Sagan come back. You ended up getting Heiskanen back.
You have 3 lines. Your first 3 forward lines are like all.
I'm the GM. It's just like I don't know what else I could do.
What else does Jim Nill do? He's executive of the year every season.
And here we are saying he just got rolled.
So is Dallas kind of gonna be like the San Jose Sharks of this generation?
I hope not.
With like Thornton and Marlowe and stuff, they always had those talented teams, but they just never got over the hump.
What is the makeup of that team that doesn't work? Why is it Edmonton was able to do this? Because I can't point to it.
I think Dallas, here's what I think. I think Dallas is kind of stuck between two eras a little bit. Because there's outside of Rantanen, who just got here, and maybe Heiskanen, but even Heiskanen, I kind of don't. They're kind of like you have a line of Ben, Segan, and Duchesne. Not that that was a line all the whole time, but when they were successful in the beginning of the playoffs, that was a line where it's kind of like that's the old guard, and then you have like Wyatt Johnston, Jason Robertson, Thomas Harley,
Even like Marchment, I
kind of like
love the
the
way
new
Marchment
guard,
plays.
but they don't really have guys that are in the
Yeah,
peak. They're kind of all at the start or all at the end,
I
outside of Rantanen.
I agree with kind of the picture you're painting, and and now that you pointed out, it is like I would agree they're kind of living in a couple eras. Like they've got like you've got these like former talents that are still talented but ish, and then you've got some physicality, some fire in these young guys, but the team makeup is like it's just kind of all over the place a little bit.
So maybe it's more of a when these older guys kind of go, when they're done, and these younger guys kind of get into their peak, and then maybe you get other pieces around those younger guys because they've proven they can draft well. They've
Yeah.
drafted terrifically well.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem to be a problem. So maybe it's more of a it's not their time yet.
Yeah.
I think Ottinger's still got tons of time. He's still young enough as a goalie.
Yeah.
Heiskanen's still got tons of time, I think.
Do you start to phase out some of this old guard?
It sounds like Ben is saying he wants to stay. He might be UFA. I'm not 100% on that, but it sounds like he still wants to be here. I think Duchesne had a really great year, so it's kind of hard to let him go. Seeing was hurt all year, so it's kind of hard to touch on that.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, it's hard to. They've been to 3 conference finals in a row, so like you can't. And it's not like they don't play in a bad division. Like they have to play hard teams to get there.
I think my nervousness would be they played better last year.
Yes, they did. Yes.
And to see them walk in and then it was like it wasn't even close.
Maybe it was a health factor. You had injuries throughout. Maybe Heiskin and Robertson weren't fully there.
Yeah.
Hintz got injured throughout the year.
Yeah.
We not really gonna touch much on the splash in the guy's foot, but it was pretty clearly intentional.
Yeah.
Um,
If you want to make the argument that that was not intentional, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
Again, puckyourselfpodcast@gmail.com.
Maybe it was just like the health caught up to them and the guys ran out of steam. I don't know.
And they played what? Tough series. They
They
did play
went
some tough series.
7 against Colorado, and was it 6 against Winnipeg? I think it was
Yeah.
6. Yeah. So 2 long series. Versus kind of Edmonton kind of breezed through Vegas.
Yeah.
So that could be a factor there. But it's just what does Dallas need to do to get over the hump? I don't really have the answer. I don't know. I think maybe it's just a patience thing.
Yeah. Keep riding it out.
Yeah.
You're still doing well.
You know what I would say is maybe they need a center, like a big gun center
For a second line?
for the first line.
First line.
Because like if you look at it, Duchesne's kind of at the end.
Yeah. But he's
Wyatt,
second line right now?
Yeah, Wyatt is still kind of young, and he kind of alters between center and wing.
Okay.
And Hintz, don't get me wrong, is a very good player, but just maybe not like an out-and-out number 1 center.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something they need. Because I think their second goal, I'd argue they have 2 number 1 defensemen now that Harley has been as good as he has with Heiskanen.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you just need that number 1 guy through the middle up front. Maybe that's just what I'm thinking. Oh my god, their team is so good. I just keep thinking of players.
On paper, it's
like I forgot about Granlund.
Yep.
Hintz, Granlund, Rantanen, Johnston, Robertson, and Robertson showed up at the end of the series. Obviously, he was being criticized a little bit throughout the series. Not just him, all those kind of scorers weren't scoring against Edmonton. But Robertson showed up at the end of the series. Maybe it was too little too late, but at least he did something. Nobody else was. So,
yep.
I don't know. But yeah, that's it. Edmonton's back in the Cup final for the second year in a row. And it's kind of a different way, honestly.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about the road when we get to the Cup final.
Yeah.
Well, let's touch on the Eastern Conference final. Florida just
Walked them.
like even more than the Edmonton Dallas series. Florida from the get go.
This is one where I did catch the first few games of it,
Yeah.
and it was like from game one, it was,
Yeah.
oh my God, Carolina doesn't know what to do.
Yeah. So basically, the first 3 games, Carolina was useless.
I wanted Jarvis's friends to be able to walk in game one and be like, our boy.
Yeah. Game 4, Carolina showed up. They played their game. They played well. They got the win. They got the shutout.
Yeah.
Game 5, I thought they played well as well. Florida kind of made a push back and ended up winning and closing out the series. But it was more of a kind of like
Too little, too late.
Too late.
Yeah.
If you would have played like this all series, maybe we'd be going 6 or 7. But you didn't.
You had Florida go to 7 with the Leafs. Sure, they didn't have to play super hard in the last game.
Yeah.
But Carolina had plenty of rest going in.
Yeah.
Like, there was zero excuses.
Maybe it was too much rest. Maybe it was you need the games because they rolled New Jersey over, they rolled Washington over both in 5 games.
I forget who it was on the panel. It might have been Pronger, who was like, I prefer not resting. I prefer not the long layoff between series.
Like, you're going to tell a team, I don't want you to win 4 games in a row.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just, like, lose games on purpose just to keep playing. Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's just not. You can't do that. Maybe not so much the rest. Maybe it's just, like, Florida had the power, had to play Tampa in the first round, and they kind of made light work of them. But Toronto, they went down 2-0 and kind of faced a little bit of adversity because that division's so hard. Florida's kind of got to battle a little bit more, whereas maybe Carolina doesn't have to as much. Jack is really shit
I
his
am
pants.
gassy over here.
Maybe that's kind of the factor. Maybe that's why Carolina can't get out of the conference final. Now, granted, they finally won a game at least. They haven't won a game in the conference final since they last won the cup in 2006. And this is, I think, their 4th or 5th time being in the conference final.
You got one.
So they've been swept every other year.
You have something to search for of, oh, this is better?
Yeah,
maybe?
I guess. I honestly argue they played Florida in the conference final 2 years ago. And they got swept, but none of the games were like blowouts. Like, they were all close games, and Brendan Moore pretty much said after, yes, we got swept on paper, but we didn't get swept. Like, we actually played well.
Yeah.
But I'd argue that series probably game to game was closer than what this was,
I
even
thought
though Carolina won a game.
Oh, I thought after game 3 he was suiting it up.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to get on the ice himself.
Yeah. So on the other side of it, Florida just does Florida things. 3rd straight Stanley Cup final.
Everyone is looking so good.
Now I want to throw this out there, and this is exactly why Florida wins. And not just the Leafs, but other teams too, but the Leafs specifically don't. Florida Panthers points this postseason.
Oh, this is going to be painful.
Barkov, 17. Bennett and Kachuk, 16. Verhaeghe and Marchand, 14. Reinhart and Luosterainen, 13. Lundell, 12. Ekblad and Rodriguez, 11. They have 10 different players with 11 points.
It's through the lineup.
It's through the whole lineup. The problem with the Leafs isn't that, Matthews didn't score in Game 7, Nylander didn't do this, Marner didn't do this, Tavares didn't do this. When you watch Barkov play, do you really hear Barkov's name? Like, you hear it a lot, but not like.
Not in the, oh my gosh, look at that highlight reel goal.
Yeah, right? Because Florida, like, Kachuk did nothing in the Toronto series offensively.
Pretty much irrelevant. Like, I don't know what he maybe had a couple of assists. He didn't score.
But because maybe you take a little bit less money, you can pay the depth of the lineup a little bit more money, and that's the difference. That depth of the lineup. Because you can rely on your full lineup to come out and play.
Yeah.
And I didn't save this one because I just saw it in passing, but I believe Edmonton on this kind of on the same side. I think it said Edmonton has like 5 or 6 guys with 5 or more goals in the playoffs. Just in the goal department, right?
Yeah.
Or like, so like that's kind of a big difference.
No, I think it's a good call out. Yeah. And like we spoke about it in the regular season where it did feel like if the core 4 weren't firing, that we weren't scoring.
Yeah.
Most games.
It's not just Florida. Like Florida down to a T.
Yeah.
And they go back 3rd year in a row, and they're the standard at the moment, and they're looking to be back-to-back champions.
Depending on how this like series goes, very dependent.
Yeah.
Are we entering a dynasty? Are we entering a Chicago level dynasty where it's like they're going to be remembered as one of the greatest teams to be put together?
I think it depends what you consider a dynasty. Like, do you consider Tampa a dynasty?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, 3 finals in a row, 2 cups, which would be what Florida's doing if they win again this year. They do the exact same thing.
And like even with the guys on that team, it's like regardless of the outcome of the season, they're gonna be damn good next year.
Next year, yeah.
There's zero issues.
Yeah. It's just kind of maybe re-signing a couple guys, but they don't seem to have an issue doing that.
If you're winning, what the hell are you leaving for?
Yeah. So
I think it's very telling.
Yeah,
Marchand was like it was
If you consider Tampa dynasty, then I would consider Florida dynasty too. Yeah. Well, they gotta win. They have to win.
I think they have to win this.
Yeah.
If it's just a one-off, I think that kind of disappears.
It's not that they're not a really good team, but I wouldn't call them a dynasty. You have to win at least. If you're only winning 2, it's got to be like back to back, and you have to be in the finals or the conference finals, like a shit ton around that.
Yeah.
If you're like I wouldn't consider LA a dynasty because they won 2 cups in 3 years.
No, I wouldn't either because the fall off was so steep.
Kind of the in between and around that, they weren't really.
Lightning struck, but I don't think it was a dynasty.
Like Chicago, yes, because 3 cups in a short 5 or 6 year period.
I would even put Boston as a dynasty.
No, they only won 1. They only won 1.
Okay.
Pittsburgh won back to back. I would put them in there.
Okay.
I think you have to.
You need 2 cups.
You need to adjust it to this era because it's a lot harder to win now. There's so many more teams now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think 2 years, if you win back to back 2 years, I think you'll call it that. Whereas kind of if you go back like 20 years, you would say like the Wings are because they had a long period of success and they won 4, 5, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Where that's kind of different. In this era.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be, you can't, that sustainability is just not possible.
Yeah.
In a hard cap era. So it's like a final. We're back.
It's
a year later.
It's a repeat.
It's a repeat. So here we go. So I find this is what I want to talk about. So both teams here. If you look at both teams, they both had long roads, long seasons last year. Game 7 of the Cup final, or they won or lost. They kind of came back this year. And it kind of seemed like the regular season just meant nothing to them.
Mm-hmm.
Not nothing, but they still need to get in. But
it's not good.
It was like Florida had really good stretches, and then they kind of had some injuries, and they kind of fell off near the end. But it was just kind of like, if the Leafs want to go all out for the Atlantic Division title, we don't really give a rat's ass about the Atlantic Division title. We're here for one thing only.
Mm-hmm.
And then Edmonton kind of in the same vein as last year. Edmonton struggled at the beginning of the season last year mightily, and then had a big run in the second half. Nothing was like quite as high and low for Edmonton as it was the previous year, but it wasn't like consistently great all year.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like they got third in the division. They weren't like, it wasn't McDavid's best number season. Draisaitl was kind of the guy this year. The guys they lost after the playoffs last year, it was kind of like a big thing, and the guys they brought in weren't really working. But then come playoff time, they kind of just switched. We talked about it last night.
Playoff mode.
Why was Edmonton's depth so bad in the regular season, and then all of a sudden, they're outside of Florida, they're the best depth in the NHL?
They're out there contributing.
What changed?
It's another kind of mesmerizing thing.
Yeah.
It's this flip went, and suddenly these guys, it's a completely different way that they're playing.
I think even like their roads in the playoffs are very similar. Whereas last year, especially Edmonton, like Edmonton's road last year was like, they kind of breezed through LA, but then you had a 7-game against Vancouver, you had a 6-game against Dallas, tough series. You go down 3-0 in the Cup final with Florida. Whereas this year it was kind of like, okay, you faced a little bit of adversity at the beginning. You go down 2-0 against LA, and then you breeze through them, you breeze through Vegas, and you breeze through Dallas. And then Florida, not exactly the same order, but they breeze through Tampa, have a little bit of a hard time against Toronto in the beginning, come back, win the series, and then breeze through Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like 2 rounds were breeze throughs. You face a little bit of adversity in the beginning of one round, whether it's the first or second round, and then you just kind of take over for the rest of the series.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's for these two teams, like Florida's 3rd year in a row Cup final. The first 2, were hard. They had to come back against Boston down 3-1, and they were one of the lower seeds. They had to claw their way to the final with all those injuries they had. And then last year, they had to claw all the way back to go win it. Edmonton, we talked about already with the tough series on the way on the road there. Whereas this year, it was kind of more of a breeze.
Mm-hmm.
Not as much highs and lows.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of highs, very little lows.
Even it just wasn't very punishing. Like,
yeah.
Even going 7 against the Leafs, it wasn't punishing.
So that's great for the viewers because you have both teams are very healthy. Ekholm's back in there.
The only excuses is like Hyman, but that's
one.
That's
like
it.
Yeah. That's it.
You've got a goalie who seems dialed in right now on both sides.
Guys are going to be hurt.
Yeah.
But just the significant injuries aren't going to be as much because it was kind of a breeze for
You don't have a Hintz playing with an obvious injury.
Yeah. So going on both sides, are Florida just too good, or can Edmonton get over the hump?
I think it's tough. And this was one of the questions I had. I think Florida's the favorite.
Yeah, 100%.
I think it is Florida's to win. I think they're looking so good. I think that the play style that they play is going to be hard on Edmonton. I think as so often we refer to, goaltending is going to be so key in this.
Yeah.
Was Stuart Skinner's series a fluke? Was it Dallas just didn't know how to play against Edmonton? The thing that I have a lot of respect for with Florida is they figure it out. Even if they lose a game, maybe they lose two. You saw it in the Leafs. They figure it out.
Yeah.
I think that Florida may just be that good.
Okay.
That's kind of my 2 cents on it.
Okay.
I think it's most likely scenario they get to lift the cup again. I may be saying all this intentionally so that I curse them, but it's like they seem to just have the culture and as you referenced right at the beginning, the buy-in from the players, the depth through the lineup, that's all contributing. Yeah, you have it on Edmonton as well, but I think you just have it so much more with Florida.
There's a larger sample size with Florida than there is with Edmonton.
Yeah. That I think Florida's just they're legit.
Yeah. So I'll say Florida made some moves that were big at the deadline that have obviously helped a lot.
Marchand looks great.
Jones and Marchand look great.
Jones. Jones, the defensive contributions, the moving of the puck, the scoring, he's looked so good. Marchand, 14 points. If you told me Marchand was gonna have 14 points in playoffs, I would have said, where can I get what you're on?
You remember in the regular season, kind of at the end, they're like, "Oh, Marchand's not really doing much for Florida." Blah blah blah. They didn't get him for the regular season, right? They don't care about that. Come playoff time, who's going to show up? Brad Marchand's going to show up.
Marchand's got
So to play devil's advocate here, what I will say is good for Edmonton is that they haven't had to necessarily completely rely on McDavid and Draisaitl this year as much as they did in the playoffs last year.
Does it make you nervous that it felt a little bit like in that last game or not the last game, the second last game, they did almost let Dallas back in. They did almost pull Leaf. Now they sucked it right back.
Yeah.
Where I think you had the McDavid.
Yeah.
I think
that was game 5. That was the clincher where McDavid kind of went out on a breakaway.
Was that the clincher?
Yeah.
Okay. I think if
it's not that you don't want to lean on those guys because they're your best players. You're going to lean on them, just like Florida's going to lean on. Maybe Barkov's not scoring, but you're leaning on Barkov every shift for the play, overall play. But we talked about the road being not as bumpy. It's because they got contributions from the whole lineup. Where it's not that they didn't last year, but it wasn't as consistent.
Mm-hmm.
It was more McDavid and Draisaitl, or let's put the team on our back.
Mm-hmm.
And Edmonton has gotten a lot better defensively, I find, as well.
I think it's a very much a chip on the shoulder. They've got something to prove. Like Florida's already done it. Edmonton has something to prove here. That they're not just frauds, that they're not jokes, that
McDavid and Draisaitl they're great players, but you cannot be an all-time great until you win.
Yeah. Do you want to just be known as a great player? Or do you want to be known as in the conversation of one of the best players to play the game?
So here's an interesting thing that's floated around. I'm sure you've seen it. So going back through, and most people just pick the one player, but I kind of picked two here on each of these. So kind of this coincidence here. So you go back to Gretzky. So it's kind of like a Gretzky, Crosby, McDavid thing.
Okay.
Now, all three of these players, if you look at their team, their second line center was a really good player. You have Gretzky with Messier, you have Crosby with Malkin, and you have McDavid with Draisaitl. So it's kind of like the one Canadian, he's the Messiah, and then that the second Euro outside of Messier is Canadian, obviously, because it's kind of the era. But the second guy was still an all-time great, but he's just not quite on the level as that first guy. But you have two phenomenal centers that are leading the way. So Gretzky and Messier came in for Edmonton. In their first Stanley Cup final, they lost to the Islanders in 1983. They came back the next year against the same team and won the Cup in 1984.
Okay.
Crosby and Malkin, Pittsburgh, first Stanley Cup final in 2008. They go to the final. They lose to the Wings. They come back in 2009 and win the Cup final. Now McDavid and Draisaitl, first Cup final, 2024, lose to Florida. We're back a year later.
Question mark.
Same team.
Question mark on the horizon.
And this kind of like the Four Nations. McDavid's got to kind of take the torch on from Crosby, and McDavid ends up scoring the winner just as Crosby did 15 years ago.
The golden goal. Oh, the romanticism of hockey.
Have I changed your mind a little bit, maybe?
It makes it fun. Like, the narratives, the storylines, this is part of hockey.
Yeah.
I think, does it change anything for me? Not really, because I think it's like, you know what? No.
Maybe just that all-time great, it just gets it over the hump. Maybe it's their time.
And it is. If you're McDavid, you're Draisaitl, you're staring. It's like, this is my prime. I've gone all the way here. We let it slip last year.
You can't do that again.
I think there is absolutely something to be said for getting close and not getting it done and getting the second chance and understanding the moment you're in.
Yeah. It's just, how is it possible? Like, it's the team they have to beat is the team of that era.
Yeah.
Florida's the team of this era. Detroit was a great team for a long time. They were pretty much they won the President's Trophy pretty much every year in the first decade of the 2000s. The Islanders had won 4 cups in a row before Gretzky and the Oilers and Messier beat them. So it's kind of like that's that big dog team that you got to get over the hump. Even like you go to basketball, Jordan with the Pistons.
Yep.
There's that team you got to get over the hump.
LeBron with Cleveland.
Not who he played for. Yeah.
But like dominating in Cleveland, and then Golden State comes in.
Yeah, Golden State would be the one for him. Obviously, different situation, but
yeah.
That's just kind of the narrative.
It's fun.
Yeah, I kind of thought about it, and then I saw it after I thought about it. And I was like, yeah, other people are noticing too.
It's fun. My heart says I want Edmonton to get it done just because it's like, I think it'd be so cool. It would keep up this tradition of the fall to the rise. And I love it. Seemingly like you are an underdog. You lost to them last year. It's pretty much the same rosters. Can you get it done? I love that. This is part of sport. Some of the best part of sport is stuff like this. I think Edmonton has a shot here. I don't think it's clean cut. I think Florida still has an edge, but I think it's going to be a close series.
I'll say this. I still think Florida's the favorite, but I do think Edmonton has a better chance. Going into the series, I think Edmonton has a better chance this year than they did last year.
And they're familiar. Yeah. They know each other.
Yeah. One other factor I will say, and a lot of people will kind of scoff at this, but I think just based on who the specific team is, Edmonton is so good on home ice. That building is insane.
Yeah.
And Edmonton has home ice advantage this year.
Oh, God.
So maybe that turns it around. Listen, if anyone can deal with it, it's Florida.
Yeah.
But Edmonton has been so good in the playoffs on home ice.
Yeah.
They won all three they lost game 3. So they did win 2 of 3 in Edmonton in the cup final last year, but even just the road this year, have they lost a home game yet in the playoffs this year?
I don't
think
think
they lost to
so.
Vegas.
Did they?
Won to Vegas. Because they were down, they were up 2-0 when the series was in. The first two were in Vegas. I think Vegas won game 3.
So they must have then.
But the LA series, they lost the first two in LA, won the rest.
Mm-hmm.
They won 3 at home. And then Vegas, they just had the 2 home games. They won 1. And then Dallas, they lost the first game. It was in Dallas, and they won the rest of the games. So they've only lost 1 home game in the playoffs so far this year. So that could be a factor as well.
Oil City, go get it done, baby.
What will be the difference in this series? Whether it's one way or the other, I think the number one thing is goaltending.
Number one's gonna be goaltending, and a lot of it falls on Stu.
Yeah.
Like
Bob.
Bob.
We know
No, Bob's
maybe
gonna be
Bob
solid.
has one bad game, but he'll figure it out.
Yeah. It's gonna go on Stu. It's gonna go on. Whose depth continues to go?
It's the depth. The depth, it has to be. Is Edmonton's depth for real here?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what it boils down to. Was it fluky or whatever, or do we actually have a team that is capable of taking on Florida?
The last thing is what rises to the occasion. Is it the full team game, or is it kind of the superstar takeover?
Even though we just said the depth is going to be a massive difference maker, I think it is. It's going to be, and I think it falls on McDavid and Draisaitl.
At the end of the day, Florida is a team more reliant on the whole team buying in it. Edmonton is a team more reliant on a couple guys that pull a bunch of guys with them. That's just how it is. I know the depth for Edmonton has been really good, but the full sample size is more so 2 guys carrying, maybe not just the 2, those 2 main, plus a couple pieces around that.
Yeah.
Like an Ekholm, Bouchard, Nugent Hopkins, obviously Hyman behind is out now.
I think it's going to be McDavid, Draisaitl. Are you ready to drag your team across the line? I think if they can get it done, it's because those guys find a 7th gear to their game and decide this is our year.
All right, Paul. What's your prediction?
I'll start with game number. I'll go. It's going 6. Okay. I'm going to choose the Edmonton Oilers are going to win the Stanley Cup in 6.
Okay.
Connor McDavid goes nuts. Draisaitl goes nuts. He finds peak performance. I think it's actually going to be more of a storyteller for Draisaitl than it is even for McDavid. McDavid's going to be a standout, but I think Draisaitl's ready to be like, I'm going to show the world. The depth is still good, but I think Stu is going to continue to be Stu from last series. Please don't be a jinx. But I think he's ready to kind of answer the critics like myself. It's going to be, no, I know what the hell I'm going to do. I had a shakeup, but I'm still the guy. I've been here before. Defense is going to be so important. You got to protect Stu. You got to protect the net. You've got to be ready for a very high pace of play. Florida loves to find open ice. They love to find, like, all of their guys, from their defensemen to their forwards, they'll take ice. They'll just fire shots. Stu's got to be peak performance and get ready to it for a lot of movement. They're not like, yeah, they'll have some in front of the net, bang them up, but like, go see Seth Jones' wrist shot that beats Wool. It's sick. And so it's like, I think you're going to have to be prepared for a very dynamic offense. And you got to protect those nets. No rebounds. Rebound control is going to be huge. You know that they're coming for you. You're going to have Sam Bennett sticking. They're relentless. So defense is going to have to be prepared for a very physical game. You know they're going to beat you up. you gotta kind of take the bruises. You're just gonna have to eat the physicality.
Yeah.
You're not gonna match their physicality, so you gotta eat it a little bit, and you have to beat it with speed and puck movement.
What
Your breakout's gonna have to be unbelievable.
what one thing with Florida is that they're very aggressive and it's very hard to get by. But if they do let a significant amount of odd man rush chances, whether it's a breakaway 2-on-1,
Yeah.
whatever. They do allow it.
You saw it with
quite a bit.
Willie. Willie had
Yeah.
2-3 in the series.
Even just Toronto in general
Yeah.
had a decent amount.
So that's gonna
So
be
that's
important.
one thing, and Edmonton's probably the last team you want to give up those sort of chances against,
Yeah.
especially if McDavid's on the ice.
And Florida's very good at choking you.
Yeah.
They're going to choke in your own zone, particularly that second period. They're very good at clogging the neutral ice. They're very good at batting pucks out of the air when you're trying to chip it off the board.
They're just the masters at playing the game within the game.
Yeah. Every little detail is
Yeah.
going to need to be covered
Yeah.
because Florida does that already. I think it's a really strong point to point out. Stretch passes are probably going to be huge. You're going to have to beat them with speed.
I'm having a hard time picking who I think is going to win because I've said it in the last series. I just have a feeling about Edmonton. I don't know what it is. But I can say the same thing about Florida too.
I don't think there's a wrong choice.
Here's what I'll say. I think if Ekholm would have been here all playoffs, I'd be probably leaning towards Edmonton a little bit.
Okay.
He's only played one game so far. Is he 100%? And not just that, if he's like, nobody's going to be 100%. Most people are going to be hurt at this point.
But is he rushing back?
But is he 100% plus with game fitness, fitness? Because you haven't played in a long time, right? And one thing I will say is we've been super impressed with Edmonton's kind of their decor. They've been able to handle whatever. Klingberg has been a surprise for how good he's been in the playoffs.
No one would have expected this.
But can he handle Florida? Hard on the forecheck. Can Bouchard's kind of had struggles with turning the puck over a little bit. Takes some chances sometimes. Granted, Edmonton has been a lot better defensively. But I will say I trust Bob a little more to not make a mistake and make saves when the team needs a save over Skinner. And yes, we've talked about Edmonton's defense has improved and Edmonton's depth has improved, but that's Florida's game all the time. They're the masters at it. I'm going to say Florida in 7 again.
Okay.
I think it's going to go back and forth. It's not going to be like last year. It's not going to be Florida win 3, Edmonton win 3.
It's going to be more exchanges.
It's going to be more exchange, right? I very realistically think Edmonton can win this. I think that's a very good shot at winning that.
To me, because I agree, I think it's going to be way more exchanges, and I think it's just going to be a Hooblings first at home.
Yeah, and Edmonton has home ice this year, so it's I really don't know. I'm just back and forth, but I'm just gonna go off of what I see on the ice. Florida is just this know-how to get it done. So I'm just going to go with that and give them the edge with that.
Okay.
Going with the last round, how we did.
You don't have to read mine. That's fine.
Well, you've been dummying me the whole time. So after round 3, after round 2, Jack had a 15-11 lead. Jack said Canes in 7. I said Cats in 6. So he gets 0 points off of that.
Boo!
I get 1 for getting the team right. And then in the other series, Jack said Stars in 5. I said Stars in 7. Edmonton obviously won, so we both get 0. So I get 1 point, and Jack gets 0 off of that.
15-12.
So it's now 15-12. So basically, I need Florida to win and get the games right, and then it will be a tie.
Yeah.
That's it, and I can't win.
Did we put a Toonie or a Tim Hortons gift card sponsored on this series?
I don't think we did, but we can.
We'll put a Toonie on it.
Yeah, we can. So that's it. Oh, last thing about the Stanley Cup final. The streak continued. 45 seasons in a row, a former teammate of Jaromir Jagr has made the Stanley Cup final.
What a bizarre stat.
So from 1980 to 1983, you have Brian Trottier. 84 and 85, Mark Messier. 86, Joe Mullen. 87, 88, Messier again. 89, Yuri Hrdina. 90, Messier. 91, 92, Lemieux. 93, JJ Daigneault.
Okay, keep going on this. I need to squat.
Hurry. 94, you got Mark Messier. 95, you got Tom Chorchk. 96, you got Scott Young. 97 and 98, you got Doug Brown. 99, you got Benoit Hogue. 2000, you got Scott Gomez. 2001, Chris Drury. 2002, Brendan Shanahan. 2003, Jay Pandolfo. 2004, Pavel Kubina. You have the lockout in 05, so nobody. 2006, you got Mark Recchi. 2007, Sean Thornton. 2008, Andreas Lilia. 2009, Peter Sikora. 2010, Chris Versteeg. 2011, Mark Recchi again. 2012, you got Willie Mitchell. 2013, you got Dan Carstillo. 14, Willie Mitchell again. 15, Chris Versteeg. 16 and 17, you got Matt Cullen. 18, you got Alex Chason. 19, you got Braden Shen. 20, you got Braden Coburn. 21, you got John Merrill. 22, you got Andre Palat. And then 23, 24, and 25, you got Alex Barkov for 45 straight seasons for Jaromir Jagr's teammates being in a cup final. Obviously, it helps that he played on Florida at the end of his career, and they make the final every year. But just an absolutely batshit insane stat. Can't believe that a guy who is, 50 now, still has all of these people that he played with still playing in cup final for this long of a stretch of time. It's absolute insanity.
If you want to talk guys with aura, Jagr is kind of the centerpiece.
So crazy stat. Cup final starts Wednesday.
I'm kind of pissed it's not tonight.
Yeah, I thought it was
so long.
Kind of a weird. Maybe I could have seen like Monday. Maybe they push it to Monday. If you look at the schedule, it's so dumb. If you're playing in the same city, you have one night in between games. If you have the travel, especially the long travel, you can have 2 nights. They have it. I think it's game 1 and 2. There's 1, and then you have 2 in between games 2 and 3 because there's travel. And then they play game 3, and then I think they have 2 nights in between game 3 and 4.
Why?
And then they travel, but they only have 1 night between games 4 and 5. Maybe there's some scheduling conflict, whatever. Typical in Bettman, whatever. All right, news and notes around the league. We'll run through these quick. Adam Lowry will be out 5 to 6 months with a hip injury. I believe I don't know if he had surgery or not, but he's out that long. So a lot of people are saying Lowry's going to be out for a little bit. Maybe we could bring Taze home to Winnipeg. Couple of behind the bench things. Seattle hires Leafs assistant coach Lane Lambert as their next head coach.
Good choice.
His second shot, he was behind the Islanders bench a few years back. Second shot, and he was very good this year.
Yeah.
He helped turn that D around, the penalty kill and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chicago has hired former Detroit Red Wings head coach Jeff Blashill as their next head coach. Don't think it was their first choice, but I don't think it's quite the prestigious job that many people would probably think it is because Bedard's there. I don't know, but they couldn't get any of the big guns in. Blashill gets his second shot. He gets his chance. He had a long leash in Detroit. He was there a while, and they struggled.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he'll have that long of a leash again. He will have a decent because the team's young. There's not a lot of expectation yet, but they do need to take steps in the meantime. In Boston, obviously a lot of Bruins fans will be upset at this. They extended Don Sweeney as the GM. God. Bruins fans will be pissed about that. We go to the Long Island. They've hired former Tampa Bay director of hockey ops Matthew Darche as their next GM.
Okay.
And he's had a big hand in all that Tampa success for a long time. And they've also decided to keep Patty Waugh on as the head coach. kind of similar to what happened with the Leafs when Treliving came in.
Mhm.
You gave Keith a shot, it didn't work out. You let him go. You hire your coach.
Mhm.
I think it's kind of a similar situation. Maybe not exactly because I don't know if the Islanders expect a lot of success here, but
No.
they got the first pick coming up in the draft.
The
I believe at
dismay
the
of
end of this
many.
month. Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. Buffalo goes out and brings in former Columbus GM Jarmo Kekalainen as a senior advisor.
Okay.
Not sure what that moves the needle for. I don't know.
No idea.
Maybe they bring him in, and if they have another bad season, he becomes a GM. I don't know. Very good hockey mind. He turned Columbus's franchise around. He was there a long time. And when they brought guys like Jones and Panarin and Bob, and they had a decent amount of not crazy success, but compared to what the franchise was previously.
Yeah.
And they were consistently making the playoffs, right? Outside of that, you see the weird blunder from Washington?
No.
So Washington somebody from the organization emailed season ticket holders saying this was going to be Ovi's last season. But Ovi hasn't said anything yet about it being his last season. Because they said that, it was reported, and then like an hour later, like, oh, reports are saying that was a mistake. And we don't know what Ovechkin's playing.
Oh, some poor intern is just.
Somebody
didn't click schedule.
Yeah.
Somebody clicked send now.
Yeah. So that was funny.
Oh God.
Yeah. Poor bastard. Some outside of NHL note, the Minnesota Frost win their second consecutive PWHL title.
Yep.
Back-to-back champ. A little bit of a dynasty going in the women's league.
Mm-hmm.
So Minnesota wins again.
Was it the finals that had like triple overtime?
I think they played like every game went into overtime.
There was one game that went
crazy.
triple overtime.
Yeah, there was a long one.
That was crazy.
Yeah, crazy series. But I think every game went to at least one overtime.
That's competitive.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's great. And Mem Cup. So the Mem Cup finals tonight.
Something to watch.
Something hockey related
to watch.
hockey to watch. The Quebec teams obviously struggled. Rimouski was the host and were deserving to be there because it went all the way to their final. But it obviously didn't pan out in Mem Cup. I believe they lost all three. London won the semifinal against Moncton, and so London will play Medicine Hat for the Memorial Cup tonight.
Let's go.
I think that.
Let's go Cowan.
I think the OHL and WHL are the best leagues.
I'm just gonna watch for Cowan. Like that's.
Yeah,
I want to tune into this.
Yeah, just I like to watch. Didn't really get a chance too much to watch because it was kind of always on while the NHL playoffs were on.
This is a good excuse.
But I like to watch like some young guys to kind of look out for. Who was it last year that we saw? It was a defenseman. Was it Parikh? I think it was Parikh. So yeah, so that final comes tonight.
Let's go.
And then the last thing I got is the Amazon series Face Off inside the NHL. They've announced the players for season 2.
For next season?
And there's a lot more guys this year. So maybe there's more episodes this year.
That'd be nice.
I'm going to pull it up now. And there's one player in particular that I can't wait to watch. But here you go. Here's the list. I'll start from the bottom of the list because
if Grabensky's not on there, it's a loss.
Who?
Grabensky or whatever. The Leaf.
Oh, Grabenkin.
Grabenkin.
I don't think
Give Grabenkin one.
Grabenkin's not going to be on.
Even if it's for a minor league guy.
So we got 14 people.
Holy shit. Okay.
Compared to last year, there was nowhere near that many. So we got Zach Werenski, Brady Tkachuk.
Good choice.
Sean Monahan. Monahan's going to be interesting to see with all the Goudreau stuff. Seth Jarvis comes in.
Nice. Love it.
Wyatt Johnson's in there.
Good choice.
Quinton Byfield's in there.
Good choice.
Thomas Harley's in there.
Interesting choice.
One I can't wait to watch. Mikko Rantanen's in there.
Maybe I'll like him.
Yeah. Nylander's in again. I think he's the only returning one. Matt Tkachuk's there as well. So 2 returning ones. You've also got Anze Kopitar. That's an interesting one.
A little bit.
And then the last 3 I want to touch on. This first one's cool. Marc-Andre Fleury his last season.
That's sweet.
The next 2 are fun. The first one is Brendan Shanahan.
Ooh. that ending is going to be interesting.
Sheriff Shanny, and then my absolute favorite one, Sidney Crosby.
Let's go.
Insight on Sid. I don't care how boring he is. He's Sid.
He's still Sidney fucking Crosby.
All right, that's all I got. You got anything else?
No.
I think I kind of got to get moving here, so maybe we can skip the quiz this week.
We can skip the quiz.
We'll be back.
It's summer's here. I'm pumped. It's a good time of year. So.
June, maybe the weather can get a little warmer.
Yeah.
Stanley Cup final. Can't wait to watch.
Can't wait to watch. Yeah. And just as always.
And then the Cup final tonight as well.
Go puck yourself, folks.